Playing chess with the Russian master. This is SkyWatch TV for Tuesday, March 22nd, 2016. I'm Derek Gilbert. Vladimir Putin announced last week that Russian forces would withdraw from Syria. What does that really mean for the Middle East? Well, we call on an expert with Middle Eastern experience dealing with the complex negotiations there. Pentagon analyst, consultant, and retired military, also the author of the book Never Submit: Will the Extermination of Christians Get Worse Before It Gets Better? We welcome Colonel Bob Maginnis to the program. Colonel Maginnis, it seems that Vladimir Putin has caught the West by surprise again. He surprised the West when he committed Russian forces to Syria, and then again when he said, okay, mission accomplished, we're pulling most of our folks out. Am I wrong in assessing him as a pretty shrewd player? Is there more going on here than it appears?
Well, of course, Putin is a real politique. He understands how to manipulate the situation to his best advantage. He's being pressured in Europe, and so he sees vulnerabilities in the Mideast. He sees an ally by the name of Bashar Assad who was in trouble. And so what he did last year is to rush forces there to bolster Assad, but at the same time undermine U.S. credibility in the region. And of course, re-solidify his own hold on Tarsus and on Latakia, another air base, and he fortified, built those up, and the like. And so over the last 100 days prior to his announcement, he ratcheted up the pressure. He regained a considerable part of the territory that once belonged to Assad, put it back in his lap. And of course, at the beginning of January, they went to Geneva, started to talk, and Assad had a much stronger hand. And of course, meanwhile, the Russians, especially Vladimir Putin, looks like a winner, looks victorious. And recalling the Su-34s and the Su-25s, those aircraft, all they are is going home a few hours by air away. So that really, I would argue that not only is Putin victorious, but this is really not a technical withdrawal. All it is a shifting of assets, some of which are back in southern Russia that can be there in a couple hours. He left behind a lot of jets, a lot of helicopters, a lot of artillery, the S-400 air defense systems, which of course can shoot down our aircraft, and of course he has military advisors. He of course is also putting pressure on Assad by virtue of saying, okay, now you have to figure out what you're going to do. He's putting him in a corner to a certain degree, so he's going to have to compromise. He doesn't have the Russians as they were totally behind him saying, okay, if you don't do what Assad says, then you're going to have to answer to Moscow. Well, there's sort of a backing away, but at the same time, Putin holds all the cards. And I just think this was a very shrewd, very interesting move on his part.
So they gained some experience, his pilots, his soldiers in real-world situations. They come out with a new air base and a new naval base, or an expanded bases, rather, in the Eastern Mediterranean, which they didn't really have before. They've sold a bunch of weapons to the Syrians, and perhaps, and as I understand it, also made some other weapon sales around the world to buyers who were impressed at the performance of their weaponry in Syria. And also perhaps puts a little pressure on Turkey's southern border, as I understand that Moscow is supporting the creation of a federalized Kurdish zone, an autonomous Kurdish zone on Turkey's southern border.
Yeah, that certainly antagonizes Erdogan and the rest of certainly the Sunni Turks who hate the Kurds. And of course, the Kurds are a minority that have a great part of the eastern section of Turkey. They are very concerned about the resurgence of the Turks or of the Kurds in northern Iraq, and of course the fact that we're arming a couple of brigades of Kurds just really galls the Turks, who are have declared long ago that they're enemies of the state. What's also interesting, you mentioned, Derek, is the weaponry. To recall, there are a couple of times in which Russian cruise missiles were fired out of the Caspian into targets hundreds of miles away. They flew across Iran, across Iraq, and pinpointed targets inside Syria. So yes, that was about weapon sales. They didn't need to do that. They had jets, Su-25s, 34s that could have accomplished that. They flew bombers from the mainland of Russia into that area, dropped the ordnance, and returned. So there's a lot going on weapon sales wise. So there's no question about that. And of course, they've sold a bunch to the Iraqis, and they're working with the Iranians and elsewhere in the region. So a lot of interesting things come of this. Where does it go from here? That's a tough one. I think the Kurds clearly will try to solidify their gains, and in fact, they've had some good gains in especially the east. But given the attacks in Turkey, which the Turks always blame the Kurds, whether it was ISIS or anyone else, they'll blame the Kurds. There will be a trend in that direction. I would argue it depends upon what happens in Mosul, and of course, Baghdad is beginning to move and to preposition forces, and maybe this year it would appear that they're going to have maybe 30,000 forces that will be massed to retake Mosul. We have seen the movement of ISIS families out of Mosul. Mosul's a giant city, been there. Mm-hmm. It was at one point 1.5 million. And of course, it was the Nineveh that we all read in Jonah, the ancient city. The whole province is the Nineveh province and the Nineveh plain leading up to there as you go north, out of Tikrit and so forth. So we'll have to wait and see. They probably will have a protracted fight. If they have enough forces, they will take that area back. But they're not going to destroy ISIS with the forces we have there. Unless you have a massive force and you go house to house throughout the region, you're not going to tame ISIS, much less al-Nusra and some of the other Sunni al-Qaeda-like franchises. Mm-hmm.
We read that the president has just signed off on another initiative to train and equip Syrian rebels after the spectacular failure of that effort last year. $500 million allocated for it, hundreds of millions spent, 5 soldiers actually making it to the field. We also found out over the weekend that the United States Marines have been deployed to bases near Mosul, probably in preparation to assist in the attack on Mosul. We didn't know that they were there until an NCO, a staff sergeant, was killed there on Saturday by an Islamic State rocket. There are now reportedly more Marines on the way to Iraq. Does that give you some confidence that we may be seeing the beginning of the end of the Islamic State?
No, the Islamic State, keep in mind, has franchises in 13 countries and has 34 declared provinces. That's the center of mass of what they wanted to accomplish. They're somewhat interestingly, you have to have a caliphate. You have to have land that you control. And of course, they control parts of Syria and Iraq, but now a very significant part of Libya. They control parts of Afghanistan. They're down in Yemen. They're down in the Sinai. Certainly, they're arguably in Tunisia, maybe part of Egypt, maybe part of Algeria. So you're beginning to see that they're all over. And so our efforts to go in there basically now to defend ourselves, to defend the 3,600 people that we have as operating the infrastructure for the Iraqi security forces. That's really the mission. There's not other than perhaps special forces, which, and we've seen some of them in the action and releasing some of the prisoners held by the ISIS. And these were mostly Kurdish prisoners months ago. And we'll probably see some more of that. Most of us advise type of missions. We'll embed some people perhaps as aircraft spotters of sorts, artillery adjusters, and the like. Some intelligence personnel, some that will operate maybe drones UAVs, maybe some other types of intelligence gathering equipment. I don't think you're going to see Marines per se leading the charge in the Mosul. That would be unprecedented to a certain degree, because at least this administration's made it very clear that this is an Iraqi fight and not an American fight. Time will tell whether or not that becomes the case.
And with the condition of the dam north of Mosul, which we're told could flood Mosul with 45 to 70 feet of water within 4 hours of it failing, which some experts think may happen during the spring rain season. Let's pray that there are as few people as possible in Mosul if and when that happens. Just one final question, Colonel Maginnis. With the changes that have taken place, Russia pulling most of its forces out of Syria and out of the fight there, Hezbollah kind of repositioning itself now down along the border with Israel, and the maneuvering taking place inside Iraq. I guess just a very broad question. What do you make of it? What do you think we will see as we head towards summer?
Well, Hezbollah, of course, has controlled the entire area along the Israeli border for many years. Their fortifications, and of course, the Israelis on many occasions have attacked into there and tried to weed them out and even into the Bekaa Valley, etc. So I really don't make much of that, other than you've had a lot of Revolutionary Guard out of Iran. You've had quite a few Iranian IRGC killed, even a couple of general officers defending Assad. Then, of course, they've worked hand in glove with the Russians. So you had the alliance of Russia, Hezbollah, Syria, and Iran that have done reasonably well in the region. Now, I would argue that, to a certain degree, there should be some geopolitical jealousy here, because when the Russians came in and really set things straight for Assad, it really took it was sort of embarrassing, I would argue, for the Iranians, who had really propped up Assad for some time. And of course, it sent IRGC, sent Hezbollah in there and the like. And so the Russians, they came in, started bombing, and did so mercilessly, and killing people left and right, bombing schools and hospitals and the like. But they're very clear. They say, you either do what we tell you to do, or you'll get killed and we'll destroy your property. Now they have, with what's left, which is a fairly robust force of aircraft especially, they've started to bomb ISIS. So here they've solidified Assad, and all of a sudden they're turning on ISIS, and they're really, to a certain degree, looking almost like heroes to those that are looking from the outside. He says, at least somebody's doing something against ISIS, and somebody's trying to bring a modicum of peace and force the Geneva talks to resolve what seemed to be an intractable situation. So it's a host of interesting implications here. Now, you have to take all that into context, though, Derek. What's happening there has a direct implication to what's happening in Western Europe. And,
right.
Russia turned on the refugees, flooded Western Europe, and gave them all sorts of heart pains. And now, of course, he's backed off a bit, and he just like turning on the gas or turning off the gas in Ukraine or Germany and anything else. He said, "Look, I can make your lives miserable if you don't cooperate with me." And I think the Europeans are beginning to get the message, and so they're probably not going to cooperate as much, which puts us in a very tight spot, because the people in the Baltics, the people in Poland and Hungary, and the Czech Republic, as well as Ukraine, where there's an ongoing war and has been for 15 months, they're all basically hat in hand coming to us to help us, because Putin is pretty serious. He's not only killing our people, but he has every ambition, I think, to try to control this region once again. So a lot of things that are happening, and it's just not black and white anymore.
Well, we have been cursed to live in interesting times, that's for sure.
Well, I think you'll enjoy my new book. I'm going to send it to Tom this week, and it's scary stuff. But I think very accurate, and it talks about the troubled times we live in.
Do you have a working title for the book?
Well,
Anything you can share?
yeah, I better withhold that for right.
Okay. Well, we look forward to seeing you back here, and we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us via Skype today.
Okay, thanks a lot.
It is most definitely a world in chaos, and that is our topic on SkyWatch TV this week. L.A. Marzulli is our guest. If you missed it last night on the Victory Television Network, you get 4 opportunities today to see SkyWatch TV. You'll see them on your screen right here rather than me reading all of them. 4 opportunities tonight, and then tomorrow on the Cornerstone Network, 2:30 p.m. Central Time, and then again Saturday on the Victory Television Network and the Christian Television Network. All of those dates and times are posted at skywatchtv.com. Just log on to the website there and look for the channel listing link in the top menu bar. And of course, the SkyWatch TV channel on Roku has the program available for you to watch at your convenience. If you have not yet added the SkyWatch TV channel to your Roku account, we have instructions posted, skywatchtv.com/Roku. Video on demand, that is the way of the future, and that is how you can bring the Rocky Mountain International Prophecy Conference into your living room. 2 rooms being broadcast, the main room and the Aspen breakout room at the Marriott there in Colorado Springs. For information on the packages available, and remember, these will be available for 6 weeks after the conference, so you can go back and watch them all at your convenience. Log on to prophecywatchers.com, prophecywatchers.com. Your support is critical to SkyWatch TV. We depend on it to get the word out. And during the month of March, as our thank you for your support, we're offering a very timely DVD, America's Courts, Progress and Peril. Features the wonderful orator, former presidential candidate Alan Keyes, and Alan Sears discussing the challenges faced by the American court system. Very timely right now with the recent passing of Justice Antonin Scalia. That and this keepsake wall plaque, our gift to you for your gift of $20 or more during the month of March. Log on to skywatchtv.com/donate. And of course, your mouse click can help us as well. Like, share, subscribe to our official YouTube channel. You'll find those online. My email address for your comments, questions, and suggestions. Send those to dgilbert@skywatchtv.com. And thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV.
From the time she was little, Nita dreamed of horses. Every childhood fantasy rode on the back of a heroic white steed, coming to save the day.
I don't know how long I've had this love in my heart for horses. It's just always been there. And when we were little girls, my sister and I would play all day long. I was always the white horse and she was always the little pink pig.
Let's pretend Lightning and Rosie can fly.
But everything changed in a heartbeat. On December 9th, 1971, a tragic car accident claimed the life of my dad and my best friend and my little sister. And I wondered after that if there was anything left to believe in.
Move aside, let the ambulance through. Please move aside.
As a child of 13, I felt like I had lost practically everything. And I wondered, is this it? I mean, where do I go from here? I could not have imagined back then how God could use horses, of all things, to restore my faith and vision for the future.
Starting April 19th, get your copy of Nita Horn's inspirational new book, No Fences, and learn for the first time her amazing story of loss. survival, determination, and healing. How the vision and love God gave her for these beautiful and majestic animals eventually led to the 150-acre Whispering Ponies Ranch, a general retreat facility, as well as a premier training location that specializes in using and gifting therapeutic animals to benefit the herding. Other care facilities, schools, and ministries across the nation.
When God puts something in your heart, it's there for a lifetime.